Hello, chess friends. This is Video Master Valeri Lilov, and welcome to today's lecture on the pawn chains. I'd like to explain you a little bit more of how the pawn chains really influence the position, and most of all, I'd like to talk about, like how can we take advantage of promoting our position when we have got a pawn chain. What we have on the board here was the exercise from a game played between José Capablanca and chess master Trable. The game was pretty interesting, and up to that point, as we can see, Capablanca managed to get two very powerful pawn chains, e3, f4, g5, and d4, c5, and b4. When we get such kind of supported pawns to each other, we can say that we've got powerful pawn chains. These give white a lot of space. So, we can say that after a couple of different moves, white can simply decide to maybe attack on the king's flank, or maybe he can decide to go over the queen's flank activity. So practically, we can find there are options for white to continue. But how can we take the maximum advantage of such kind of pawn chain? So basically, we can easily not consider probably moving up with, let's say, h6 to g6, or maybe or we can play a move like b5 or h6. But here we have to go with a very purposeful type of move or idea. What should white do at this point? It's not so easy to answer that question, but I'll try to do it right now. First of all, when you have a space, all you have to do is not so much to think about how you can destroy your opponent's position, but you have to consider how you can actually expand it. The expansion of the actual position that we are having, the space advantage, can only happen when we get even more space advantage. This means we take away the control of certain squares in the opponent's position. Now, it is not always very easy to do that, but Capablanca did it in a magnificent way. First of all, he played b5 here. Now, many people would be a little bit afraid to do such a move, because after b5, it seems like white is going to sacrifice a pawn. So, after the move of b5, why does white do this? I mean, what's the idea of this possibility? So, in general, the move of b5 is made for one reason. White's intention is to open more files, and by maintaining the pressure, he's also going to maintain a possibility to get through with his pieces and consider putting them instantly on the let's say against black's position. So after he moved with the simple move of pawn up to b5, so we can easily find that it's not such an easy task for black to do his job. You know, he has to capture, like with 8x to b6, 8x to b5, and then in this very moment, white simply did pawn up to h6 check. Now, this in-between check really allows white to take a complete control of the A line, and of course that helps him to expand his position, so that he maybe even create more threats and activities right in front of the black queen's flank position. Okay, so after b5, 8x to h6 with a check, black's king came back on the f8, and of course the move of 8x to b now helps white to get an additional control of that file. And okay, how does the game go after that moment, after this move of 8x to b? Well, black decided to continue in this case with king e7. Suddenly, if he decides to capture with c6 to b, we can find that there is an option for white to go out with rook to b1, and there could be also a way for white maybe to capture the pawn in the b5. And so there will be an opportunity after bishop takes b5, maybe the pawn on b7 could be under pressure. And also there could be resources that white can take advantage of right in front of the black, let's say, queen's flank area. And there could be definite opportunities maybe against b7 and the other pieces around. And okay, after this move actually came in, let's take a look at the move of rook to b1. After the move of rook b1 came, black played black could play the move king e7, but then white can play bishop takes to b5, and after the move of let's say rook bishop takes to b5, we can find that b7 is going to be quite a difficult weakness to handle it. Black will certainly need to recapture. Rook takes there, and I see a beautiful way to come out with the rook. So after coming forward with the chance, let's say like bringing the rook on the b2, and there could be the definite threat against b7, and of course white's pressure is going to be quite powerful, as he held. So, well, black played therefore another idea. Black did not take this pawn at all. He played the move of, let's say, king to e7. And after coming up with king e7, white did an excellent move. You can try now to think about 10 seconds and, in fact, try to decide what is going to be the most appropriate move for white to lock up. You can give a suggestion and just pause the lecture, think about what opportunity would be most appropriate for white to start with. Well, you got it? I have an idea to come out with the move of a pawn up to b6, and that was actually Capablanca's move. When we play b6, it seems like the position locks up completely, but with the same moment, black's pieces also were completely barricaded. And of course, now we can easily find up that after coming up, let's say, with some kind of moves of rook to a1, there could be also resources of queen a7. Most of the white pieces will be standing. And take a look, black's knight and bishop are completely out of the game. So he's playing without those. In the same time, white's own knight and bishop are, in fact, they can very easily get ready. And there is like an opportunity, to go on with knight d2 to b3. There could be an option, to get the king, to get the rook. So the basic weakness in black's position is which one? b7, of course. If this pawn turns out to be attacked, so this is going to help white to expand immediately. Well, and I suppose if the knight comes out to the a5, b7 is going to become a really powerful threat. I just imagine a rook there and the knight here. That's going to be really difficult to handle. So white played b6, and now we see the pawn chain destroys black's beliefs that he could really start anything. And so after rook e1, rook to c8, now queen b4 comes in its place. So there could be a chance for the white rook to start going on the a7, and there could be also a way to get attack against the b7, and there are going to be a lot of pressure, probably not only against the b7, but for example, if white's rook gets through the a8 square, then the black queen is going to be trapped, and that's definitely quite a useful type of concept. So after white played the move of queen up to b4, then black decided that there is absolutely nothing more but rook h to d8, just to get the rook around into the play. And then white played the move of rook to a7 and king back to f8. And then, of course, the move rook to h1 actually was played by white. Bishop e8, and suddenly white's rook came through the a1. So basically, that was easy to move, and there is an opportunity, to get additional pressure against b7 to move on with, let's say, a knight d2. Okay, so white played the move of rook h to a1, and then after king to g8, of course, there could be the chance for white to get king g3. After this series of moves, white is starting now to wait a little bit and mentally torture, of course, black's position. In a way, I think when we try to manage our pieces a little bit better, slowly, we're not only helping our own potential, but most of all what we are getting is that we mentally disturb our opponent, because he just says my opponent has the advantage, he keeps improving and I can't do anything. And after every move he's saying like that again and again and again. How do you think he feels? It's terrible. So after the move of king g3 and then a bishop to d7, white played king h4. Now that's kind of, move to make black to get out of his skin, as we say it in Bulgaria. So it's like very, very nasty advancing of the king, showing him like he's telling him, hey, I can get my king even there, and you can't do anything. You're unable to do anything. You are nothing. Imagine how this affects black after that. So white played king h4. King h8, and now what shall we do? Let's keep going. There was the move of rook e4, king g8, and then of course queen a3, king h8, king h3, king g8, king g3. Now these moves are just to win time and play against black's mental condition. And after king f8, king g2, bishop to e8. Now I will give you the opportunity to think for a little and suggest what should be white's best opportunity to improve his position. So basically, how can white add some more pieces in order to create threats? What do you think he should try and manage? Well, you have any ideas? I suppose you have. Even if you don't, I believe that it's pretty easy to come out. But there could be an opportunity to go for it with knight to b3, and then knight d2 to b3, and then f5, and create significant pressure right forward against the b7 pawn. All of the white pieces on b3, rook on the a4, and the rook on a7 are playing tremendous role, and I don't see how black can really defend this position or stay on track. So after bishop back to e8 as it went in here, then white started a simple move with which he just improves and goes on the queen's flank directly. How? Well, knight d2. A decisive promotion of the knight at the b3 from b3 to a5, so that it puts an amazing pressure. And so after knight d2, bishop d7, knight b3, rook e8, white already came up with the knight on a5, and now again I would request you to pause the lecture and think, what should be white's best opportunity to break through the black's position, to get over the pawns? So any suggestions? I suppose that you have. So that's basically one of the things that White needs to do. So right at this point, there is a way, there is an opportunity to get through. But only one way. We have to move away this b7 pawn. So, of course, white played the move of bishop to a6. Now, what's that for? So, after the move of bishop to the a6, and we can find that if black captures with the b pawn, like b takes to a6, there is the opportunity for rook takes to d7. Now, of course, there is like a threat against the h7 pawn. We find that black is having special weaknesses both on the of course, like both the c6 and a6, and so that's one of the things that maybe black is experiencing difficulties in. It's a very special move. After bishop a6, b takes a6, and rook takes d7, that's the breakthrough. So when you get all the activity, these moves come straight, and of course that's pretty nice. So bishop a6 was the break. Let's see what happened in the game. After rook takes d7, black played rook e7, and what do you think white should do right now? Well, I believe it's pretty simple. Let's do rook takes d8. Let's row. Now, when the black rook recaptures with rook takes to d8 on his own, now white knight captures c6, and now we see that white is getting two extra pawns. The two pawns on c5 and b5, and there could be an excellent way for white to capture the rook, take a6, and do his stuff on the queen's flank area. So this is one of the most essential things that white needs to make. So that's the move of the bishop a6 was just the result. People would say, but how can I find moves like bishop a6? You don't need to find them. You don't even need to search for them. They will show up. So basically, one of the most important things that you really need to remember is that you've got to keep improving. And the pawn chains literally matter a lot when we care about the whole activity. Now, I even want to show you a really interesting type of position that was played by two grandmasters, and yet the solution is very nice. It shows one of the essential other themes of having a pawn chain. So this is the position that was played in the game between Geller and Brontbent in London 1954. As you probably know, Efim Geller was one of the strongest grandmasters of the 1950s and 1960s, and in fact, he was a challenger for the World Championship. So basically, he was playing with White in this game, and now the question is, what can White do so that he can really improve his position? Now, what the first thing that strikes us as a particularly important, quality in front of White is the position of the pawn chain. So we can see that White's pawn chain is tremendous. All of the pawns are put in connection, and they literally limit the whole activity of Black's own bishop, of his knights, of his knight on c7, of the king that is badly placed on d8, and even the rook and the queen. So all these pieces are completely unable or unavailable, whatever you call it, to attend to better positions and try to do something out there. So this is a very essential thing to remember and understand. Now, basically, this is what happens in this case. So basically, Black's pieces are staying behind. They're not effective, not so efficient, and the main question is, what can we do? Now, I believe that it takes some time to think about it because the position isn't so simple. So we have to decide exactly how to proceed from White. But if we know what should be the best way, we will easily find how to maneuver the pieces. Often, when we have a pawn chain, all we have to do is how to maneuver the minor pieces. Why exactly the minor pieces? Because the minor pieces are very, very flexible. So they can very easily go back and forth, and they can be very useful in direction to the threats which they can make. So in this very moment, what White needs to do here is the move of knight up to h5. Now, the point of playing knight h5 is because when White's knight actually comes down there, it's creating a serious pressure against Black's pawn on the g7, and this is very essential. That's a very important thing that he can do. Now, at this moment, what's happening when White plays knight h5? Well, first of all, Black needs to defend. If g7 pawn is lost, of course, he definitely needs to do that. And White played, in this case, bishop to h6. The attack of the base. You see, we can't break through f6. We can't break through the e5 pawn. We can't break through the d6, or we can't break through the c5. We've got to attack the base. Often the base is the most vulnerable pawn on the line. So right now the fact is that the base of Black's pawn is, in fact, his g7 pawn. If we get the chance, if we get the opportunity to attack on it, and this immediate bishop to h6 moves on, then definitely the opponent is going to experience certain problems. And that's what White did. After moving up with bishop to h6, Black is having troubles. Well, let's see. What did he do right now after bishop h6? First of all, he decided to go on with bishop to h2. Okay, with knight e8, which helps him to stabilize. And then after knight e8, White played the simple king f2, just to get the king a little bit on a safer spot. And then after queen to f8, bishop to d3, to get the queen out of the protection. Now, if the queen can be involved into our attack, it would definitely become quite powerful. So Black captured the a4, and then White did the move of queen to e3. It's now pretty simple. The straightforward idea of queen to e3 helps White's queen to get out. It's positioned in a more flexible position or spot. So White can definitely consider getting through, maybe going forward to the to a kingside attack and other stuff like that. So this is helpful, and let's take a look at what happened. After queen to e3 from White's point, Black played bishop d1, and now what? Once again, when you manage to improve all of your pieces, or at least the major part of them, simply look for ways or opportunities how you can create more threats next to your opponent. Now, this is what White is looking for. Finding an opportunity or way to create more threats. If he doesn't have any threats, then it will be really difficult to achieve something or get opportunities. So therefore, all that White did in this position was just one move. Knight takes to g7. What was the idea of this move? It looks like black can just capture and he has more forces. Yeah, it looks so. But now we see that after knight takes the g7, bishop takes g7, rook takes g7, white has queen to h6 working as an idea. And most of all, what we really see at this position is that black has no way to stop the promotion of white's pawn. White can exchange the queens, swap them off, and then after g7, rook g8, and then rook h8, black has no way to protect his rook, and his position gets broken. I think in this position, this example shows us in a very critical way the team of utilizing the pawn chain, like to block the any kind of effectiveness of activity of the opponent's pieces. And once we do that, we will be ready and quite well placed to start the threats, to start any kind of activities and follow with those. That's what White did in his threats, which comes starting with g5 and all, were definitely very powerful as a whole. So that's just a suggestion of mine, and in any case, I believe that this was pretty interesting. So I believe I gave you quite a few ideas about the pawn chains, and we'll continue our discussion on that theme in our next lecture.